Good morning, everybody. Nice to see your lovely faces. You know, being from hospitality, you know the first thing I have to do is give a round of applause for our first-timers. You know, we can't forget our first-timers. If you're a first-timer, there's a blue corner in the back. Make sure you guys stop by so we can give you a little gift, and I hope we definitely see you again. So, without further ado, welcome to the Think Room. This is, it's gonna be a short discussion on things that matter in our current lives, and I hope this is going to be a topic that definitely matters in your life. What we're going to be talking about today is entering reality, and what I mean by that, because I know you're asking the question, what does entering reality mean? So, as a kid growing up, as a child, you always picture what your life is going to be like in the future. When you're an adult, how is that going to be? And now we're all reaching the age where we're entering that reality. We're becoming adults, and it may not match up with how we pictured it or how we imagined it to be when we were children. And so in some cases, people can get depressed, they can be down, they can be concerned. And that's why I'm so happy we're going over what we're going over today. The big topic is God in me. And there's two factors in your lives, two huge factors, you and God. And both of those factors play a big role in your future. So how are we going about that? So we're gonna have this discussion, we're gonna have this panel, and we're all just gonna discuss things, and we hope that it hits home for you and helps anybody, or even something that you can take home to your friends, your family, and even discuss this with them. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring out the entire panel, and they're going to introduce themselves, but give it a round of applause and help us welcome the panel down.
Morning. Or afternoon, I should say.
Good morning. Afternoon as well.
It's tough being up here. It's definitely tough being up here, especially with the lights flashing. But the first thing that I want to do is I want us to all introduce ourselves, and I want them to tell you who they are and where they are. And where they are meaning where they are in life. I'll start it off. My name is Shino Showale. Right now, I finished school, and I'm working in the field that I got my degree in. But after graduating, I still found myself asking that question, what's next? In regards to maybe relationships, getting married, even what am I going to do, my next career steps. That's a question that's still on my mind. A lot of people are even amazed when I say that because I'm, again, in my career, but it's still just a concern. And I don't even want to say it's a concern because I'm not worried about that. I know God is going to take care of me, and I know a lot of you guys also know that God is with you no matter what. And I just want you all to always remember that, because sometimes we get in these cases where we don't remember that. So let's go to Florentina.
Hello. Okay. My name's Florentina. I am a medical student. Right now, I'm preparing to go to clinicals. I didn't take the, I would say, American-European route. I took the Caribbean route, so that's where I am now.
And my name is Bukola Ojo, and currently I'm in mental health as well as working with the Department of Human Services. I have my degree in sociology, and I also went on to further into leadership. So right now, I'm currently working and managing the child support program for the state of Georgia. Even with that, because I thought that was great, I think sometimes you still have the burning question, is that it? Like Shina said, or I think I want to do better, because I know I love to be in the community, I love to help people, and even though this role I'm in right now is currently helping me to do that, I feel like I could do so much more with it. And somebody was having a conversation with me, and he said, when you're trying to aspire to be better or higher, always prepare today, starting today, the way you want to be in that new role. Even though you've not gone there yet, start to prepare your career, prepare yourself for that role as of today. So when that role comes, you're ready to prepare for it. And that's what I've been doing, and it's been working for me.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ayodele Akinfolari. I graduated with bachelor's in computer science. I have worked mostly as a management consultant all my life. Mostly finance in management consulting, which is not what I saw myself doing at all. I always thought I'd either be an IT consultant or a solutions architect or something, but one way or the other, I found myself here, and it's going great, but we'll discuss more on that.
Thank you, everybody. So actually, let's jump right into that. The first question we have is, how has your current reality differed from your dreams or your goals, the way you pictured life would be when growing up? So I just want you to kind of go back into that and explain where you are and kind of like where you wanted to be or where you pictured yourself.
I think I always saw myself as a management consultant because I always liked everything about top management and dealing with people, creating new relationships with people, trying to help people fix their problems. But I didn't start seeing that as part of my future until after I left college. So growing up, I wanted to be like 40 different things, which I think most of us here want to be, or at some point had the same feeling. I was going to study civil engineering in school. Honestly, I can't remember why, but that was what I wanted to do. And then my dad sat me down one day before I went into, I think I was in SS2 or SS1 in Nigeria back then. We're talking about what I wanted to do. And I was like, civil engineering, and he was like, why? And I was looking at him like, I think they make a lot of money. And he was like, well, that's not the only thing. It's important to think about that, but you also have to think about what you're passionate about. Back then, I loved everything about IT. It's like everything about IT. And then I kind of had this thing for software development. Even though I was in secondary school, I had read up on it. I had started a couple blogs, which went in a few directions. And then, talking about the job industry, he's like, if there's one job that you would always find in every industry, it's a computer scientist job. Because whether you're in health or you're in law or whatever, everybody needs a computer scientist, and that's how I ended up there.
Definitely. And Auntie Boogie, I'm definitely interested in your response because you're in more of a stable place in your life. You have more experience, and I'd like you to kind of let us know, basically answer the same question, but what you've learned along that journey.
Okay. Well, as a teenager growing up in Nigeria, I had so many dreams or goals I thought I wanted in my life. I wanted to be a doctor because most of my family members were doctors at the time, and we had a clinic. So I wanted to be a doctor and follow in that footsteps and be able to run that clinic. And then I look at my dad, who is a phenomenal public accountant, and he had so many opportunities in Nigeria. And so I think I could be like my dad. Everybody wants to see him. He's very smart. He's made this, is that. So I wrote all of those down. But then I knew that I wasn't going to be in Nigeria forever. I'm going to come over here because I was born here. So then I started to align those with when I come to America, what I'm going to do. But one thing I realized that all of those things I wrote down, because I used to write when I was younger, all those things I wrote down, I didn't have any relationship with God when I was doing those. It was just me, just my dreams writing down, trying to follow in my parents' footsteps, making them proud. And my parents actually told me, you could either be a pharmacist or be a doctor. Those are the two options that you have. You have no other option. Even though I was a great artist person, people thought I was going to be a lawyer in school because I could argue anything out. I was running the debating team in my school, but my parents said, doctor or pharmacist. And so that was it. And then, but as I got into America, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be a doctor. But I didn't let it go. I pursued that dream. I got into medical school here. But my second year, I realized this is not for me. This is not where I would want to be. This is not going to be me trying to fulfill my purpose in life. I don't want to be a psychiatrist anymore, but I want to do so much more. And so I left medical school. And then I ended up in mental health and to do everything that I wanted. And I'm okay with that. I enjoyed every bit of my journey. But what I wanted to really look at is, as for our generation, It's more about what our parents want. I know your generation here, even though we tell you this is what we want for you, you guys still want to do whatever you want to do. So there's a total different gap in that. But I think at the end of the day, when you pick your dreams and your goals, and you at a space where you are, like the space that I'm in right now, okay, I'm married, I have kids, I have a career, everything seems great. But how did I get here? I think I got here eventually with putting God in that plan. I think when I first started, God was not part of it. It was just mine alone, because I thought I was smart, I can do it all by myself, I don't need anyone. And God had to teach me a lesson. And in the process of him trying to teach me that lesson of letting me know that you are here, I formed you, this plan that you have laid out, I have to approve it, I have to stamp it and say it's good to go. And that's when my plan started to align and fall in places.
Thank you. And Florentina, your response on this one?
I had a very loving, well, I still have a very loving, supportive mother. She just sat us down one day and said, what do you want to do? Like Auntie, I wanted to do law. I can argue any point. You can't really argue with me. So my teachers were like, yeah, you'll do great in law. Then I had a few science teachers, you'll do well in, medicine. I basically just wanted to do anything that would help people and anything that I knew I was going to be good at, because one thing I know about my personality is I like to be the best. It doesn't mean I'm trying to compete with anybody, but to be a better version of myself. So I was like, I'll find out. So in England, we have what we call the GCSEs, which is when you are, I want to say 16, you take the exam. Without much effort, I did well on the science portion. And I remember saying, okay, this is going to be okay. I think I should do science. The English portion, I did well on that, but I only like English lit, so I said to myself, I don't want to do anything humanitarian. Let me do science. And then it got to one point, one day, where I went to the GP. I have eczema. Anybody that knows what eczema is like, it's very annoying, very frustrating. I went to the GP and he was like, well, obviously you have this, and this issue. And he was explaining it to me. And as he sat down and I sat down, I was like, I actually want to do this. This is what I want to do. Because of how he was able to help me understand what eczema was and what I was doing to exacerbate my asthma. So I said to my mom, yeah, I know now, I want to do medicine. It is, for anyone who's trying to compete for medicine, it's one of the competitive things to get into. I did my A-levels, I applied to medical school. There was 3 of us for one place. I didn't get in, and I was really, really upset. And I said, you know what, I'll do biomedical science and biomedical sciences. So I have a biomedical science degree. I've always thought when I was younger, I put God first. I always thought that because I went to church. I literally lived in church. But I didn't really. It was more that I acknowledged God, but I didn't have a partnership with him. So I didn't say, okay, how's the way to go about this? It was more, this is what I want to do, I commit into your hands. So I did biomedical sciences. I got a job after a year. The job market in England was very interesting. So after a year, I got a job, I was working, I was able to give my mum some money. I was like, yeah, this is okay. Biomedical sciences isn't what I wanted to do, but at least I'm being useful to the family. And that's what I put at the forefront of my head. Until one day, my mum sat me down again and said, this is what you want to do for the rest of your life? And I said, yeah, I'm making money, I mean, it's okay. She was like, no, is this really what you want to do? I myself was fighting it. I had people coming up to me saying, is this what you want to do? And then one day I made a decision. I said, God, if this is what you want me to do, show me. Various things happened, and then that's how I found myself doing medical school abroad. It's not by choice, if I want to say what I wanted to do, but because I had put it in God's hand and that's the way he said, I was like, fine, I'll go with it. But the most important thing I learned through this journey is, even though you put things in partnership with God, it does not mean that that road is going to be as you see it. So God gave you an assignment, he said you're going to be something. I think in our heads we think, oh, it's going to be easy. No, with God things are easier, but part of the process is to learn and for him to teach you and for him to prune you. So although God will say, okay, go ahead, go on this journey, it's not as if it's going to say there's not going to be things that are going to come along the way and try and distract you. But God wants us to fix our eyes on him. So the true nature of you loving God and really being in partnership with God is that even though some things might go contrary to what you believe he told you, what you have received, that you still hold it. That's real partnership. That it's not when it's good that you hold on to God, but when even things don't go exactly as planned. As I said, I went to the Caribbean, I did medical school, I came here, I'm still waiting to go into clinicals. It was not how I saw it when I came. But the one thing that God has shown me over time is the true relationship that I have with God is holding on to him despite the fact that though people might have gone ahead of me, that is not what I should be looking at. Because a lot of the times when we're trying to go somewhere, we're looking at the people to the left and to the right. That's their journey, that's fine. But the true thing about making that reality with God is that, okay, these are the things that are fighting me, these are the things I need to work on for myself. Okay, let me run the race for myself, not let me run the race for, you know, the person to the left or the person to the right.
Great points, everybody. The way I always saw it since I was younger is I felt like God laid down many paths for me to take, which is why I'm so happy about the paths and journeys. And depending on the effort and dedication that I was willing to put in to whatever path I wanted to take, determined where I was going to be. I always bring up that example that you can't, and I'm glad we're talking about this in the Think Room because we spoke about laziness before. We spoke about comparing yourselves to others and how you can use it as a tool versus how it can destroy you. And in this case, this is how people fall into depression sometimes. They start comparing themselves to others and how they think that their journey should be like that, but they don't understand that God has a separate plan for them. And depending on how hard you're willing to work, that's where you're going to be. I know this growing up, like the things that I would work hard for, pray hard for, are the things that I would actually achieve, but there would be times where I would want something really bad, but I wasn't willing to put in the effort. And if I'm not willing to meet God halfway, what should I be expecting? We always say, pray to God, and I use this example a lot. Pray to God for this test so you can get an A on it. And then you pray, God is allowing people to reach out to you, hey, come to this study group. You're like, oh no, I want to watch the new show on Netflix. And you're just skipping up all these opportunities that God is giving you so you can be successful on that test. And then when the test actually comes, you don't do as well as you expected to do, and you want to blame God at that point. So I feel like you need to definitely put in the work because, like I said, it's two factors. It's you and God. So what I want you guys to answer this time around is depression. Have you been in a point where you were depressed at the way things were looking? Things didn't happen as you expected it to happen. And how did you get out of that? How was God there with you? And anyone can take this one up.
I know Auntie does mental health, so you probably have a lot to say, but I'll just briefly. Having a supportive network really helps. Before I can even think of having anything that would be a sign of depression, my mum will call me. I talk to my mum on a daily basis. But if I don't talk to my mum for 3 days, she knows, oh, there's something wrong with Tina. So she will call me, text me. And then I'm like, okay, I better call my mum. And she's like, I know there's something wrong with you. I'll try and hide it, but as mothers know, mothers know you, and then she'll bring me out of it. But I want to say, when I was in the islands, away from my family, I'm a very family-orientated person. It's all about my family. I never imagined I would be anywhere far away from, especially my mum. So it was really hard. The first semester, I was like, this is okay. I mean, it was 4 months. And then by the second semester, I was really missing my mum. Everyone else was like, doing their thing. Maybe they're not as close to their family, but it was really daunting. It started to become something where I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to be an adult by myself and make decisions by myself. I thought I was an adult before, but I really learned that I wasn't. And I was getting to the point where I could talk to people, but as soon as I go to my room, I would just be empty and just sit there. I was also a choir leader, and I couldn't actually come out and say, oh, you know, someone help me, because, you know, everyone expects you to be the person that they go to. So it got to a point where one day one of my friends came and sat next to me and she said, look, I can tell you're not yourself. I don't know you very well, but I can tell you're not yourself. Come out of it. And as she said that, I came back to myself. But like, depression is something that I think we think that it can happen to the next person, it cannot happen to me. It's when you allow yourself to be open with the people who are your true friends, your confidence, that you're able to now come out of that depression. People you can really talk to. I know that we say friends, but there's a difference with friends. I think all of us know. There's the people you can, you know, talk about the latest, you know, sneaker or whatever you guys want to talk about. And there's the people you can say, I need to do, as Pastor I will say, do life with. And then those are the people that can pull you out of that.
I'm going to chime in a little bit on that as well. I actually had that scenario happen to me when I was 19. When I was 19, I was in 300 level at UI then, and I think I was just not happy. I couldn't tell my parents or my family that I'm not happy here. I just want to get out of here. I'm just not happy. But I had some friends. I had two sets of friends. I had this group of friends that just like to just enjoy school and do college life and all of that whatnot. And then I have this other group of friends from home. They were Christians, so they kind of formed like an agape group where they kind of uplift each other up, do night vigils, pray with each other and all of that. But I wasn't really interested in that. But somehow, I think one day in church, and I was just sitting down, just going through, just in my regular space, and then one of them just came up to me and said, oh, we have a meeting on Friday, can you come? And I said, okay, I'll go, and I joined. And I think the most important thing when people are going through a sad state or a depression state is to have a good support system. And when you say good support system, it could be your family members, it could be that one person that you can talk with. Talk about your stuff, and you know that whatever it is you say, it stays with that person. And also because we're from Nigeria, I know the stigma is you can't say you have any mental health issues. So a lot of times we try to downplay what it is that we're going through, when in fact we could just talk about it or try to get a self-help with whatever it is. So I do know that when we're going through that state, having somebody to talk to and pray. And I prayed. It wasn't like I didn't pray, but I pray I'll feel better this second, and then the next. But I pray I'll feel better this second, and then the next day, it's like you're back in that same space. But until I joined that group of friends, and where we talk, we share the Bible together, we do Bible study together, we do night vigil together, we hang out, then I started to see a little light at the tunnel. And that's why I always encourage that. Have that one person. Have a good support system. Have good friends. Your friends also make a big impact on how you achieve your goals. Because if you don't have the right set of people in your circle, they're gonna be distractions to you. And before you know what is happening, you're waiting far, far away from your dreams or your goal or your life.
Amen. And before you go, I just want anybody in the audience, if you have any input, any questions or anything, go ahead and raise your hand. We have a guy with a mic. So while Ayo is going, he'll look for anyone who has that input. That way they can definitely say what they would like to say. Go ahead.
Amen. Depression. So this one kind of hit me personally, because because I've been there. I left my dad's house when I was 19, 20-ish. I left his house, I left Nigeria, I moved to the US on my own, like literally. I sat my parents down on the table one day and I was like, I'm going to the US. They're like, when? I was like, next week. They're like, where are you getting money from? I was like, don't worry about it, I took care of it. I don't know how I did, but you know, when God is trying to get you somewhere, He'll open doors that you never thought could be open. And when you leave your parents' house at that age and you come to a different country where you don't know anybody, and you have to, for the first few years, you most likely have to do life by yourself. It can get tough, it can get hard, because sometimes you're like, what am I doing? And when things are not going right for you, that's the pinnacle of you being sad. And when we're talking about whether or not we fell into depression and how we're able to get out of it, even Pastor Ayo, as recently as this year, I was talking to Pastor Ayo outside, and he knew something was wrong with me. And he was like, what's going on? I was like, nothing. And he asked me like 2-3 times. And the third time, it was like this wind blew on me. Like I was just down. I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, this is not going right. This is not going right. This is not going right. And then we stood outside for like an hour, and he was talking to me, trying to give me advice and all that. Anyways, what am I trying to say? It's easy to fall into depression when you're going through things or when things are happening that you never thought would happen. Eventually, when these things pass, you realize how much God was trying to teach you, and how much it was necessary for you to go through those things to get to where you are. Trust me, at that point in time when you're going through it, you're gonna feel the worst you felt in life. But at the end of the day, like what Auntie said and what Fiorentina said, 2 things are very important. One, you have to stick with God and your support system. Like, your support system is very key. And having 10, 20 friends does not mean you have 10, 20 people who are supporting you, You can have 10, 20, 30, 40 friends, and just one person is willing to listen to you. And that person is the support system that God has placed in your life to help you deal with your problem. And like Auntie also said, it's when as Nigerians, if you tell your parents that you're going through something. I remember I actually told my mom one time, like, I don't know what's going on with me, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, you'll never go through this in Jesus' name. And I looked at her and I'm like, we're not, like, we're talking something serious. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to go through it in Jesus' name, but I'm trying to be serious here, So, find a great support system. Find people around you who really want to listen to you. Like, who really want to help you get out of the space you're in. And don't be afraid to get help. Like, if you think your friends are not listening, you're not close to people around you, don't be afraid to see a mental health specialist. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Because at the end of the day, God forbid anything happens to you, life is going to go on. So get a great support system, take your problems to God, and hopefully you'll be okay.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I do believe we have someone in the audience who had a statement. Oh, okay, you can go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'm called Kidu. The question I want to ask first is, when God told Abraham to go to the Israelites to go to Canaan, what were they going to do there? It's just a question, then I'll explain my own story after. Actually, I was born in Cameroon. I knew, after some time, I knew that I'm a born leader. So I actually wanted to work in my country at like the administration side, at the top leaders, like probably being the president of my country. I always wanted to be that. So after university, that's college, I read marketing. I served to my country for about a year, but I was still focused about ruling my country. That was my own plan. Then after some time, something strange happened to me that I had to be here. So I'm like, you plan your plans, but God has a different plan for you. So me coming here, I've just made about 2 months here. So I'm still asking God through Ignite, through this church, to give me the purpose. Because when God asked the Israelites to go to Canaan, what were they going to do there? And I'm asking God through everybody here today. God has asked me to leave Cameroon to the United States. What am I coming to do here? Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
I think, yeah. Thank you for sharing your question. Honestly speaking, I think we can't answer that question for you. I think it's between you and God. But the important thing is that you believe God brought you here for a reason. Because if you believe that He brought you here for a reason, you just have to stay patient. Like, you have to stay patient. You know, there's this saying that God's time is the best. God's time is not our time. Like, so many, you might have seen yourself getting a job within the first month or the first 2 months or the first 3 months. Or God is saying you're not going to get a job for the first 6 months. You know, so that path to get to where God is trying to get you to, you just have to not relent and just keep going and keep praying and stay with Him. And an example is this, right? So I moved to Atlanta 2 years ago. I moved from Texas. I was working a great job, but it wasn't the industry I wanted to work in. And the way I left there was just very weird. Like, looking back, you know, it was just God was like, it's time for you to go. But at that point in time, you know, I felt okay, because it's like when I left the company I was working for, it was a great company. I thought to myself, I'll find a job in the first month when I get to Atlanta, because I have a degree in computer science, I have experience in this, I've worked for this. And I was in Atlanta for about 7-8 months without a job. And week in, week out, me, Pastor Ayo, a lot of our mommies and daddies here, you know, they would we'll talk, they'll pray, we'll go through the week, it wasn't that I wasn't applying to jobs, you know, it was like, I'd apply to jobs and one job would call me, they'll do an interview, they'll tell me I'm overqualified. Another one will tell me I'm underqualified. At some point, it's like, what's really going on? And then one of my friends here, one of us here told me one day, he's like, whoever wants you, wants you. Like, you just have to believe that whatever company wants you, wants you. And then after a while, I was just like, you know what, God, I'm just going to keep waiting. I'm going to keep doing me. Like, I'm not going to relent. And after a few months, I got a job with one of my dream companies. And so I look back at that journey and I was like, wow, like, who would have thought I would have survived 8 months without a job? But at the end of everything, it was like, so God, this is where you were trying to get me to. Thank you for keeping me throughout, you know, the journey. So just gotta stay faithful. Just keep the faith, and by God's grace, He'll get you to where you want to go to.
That's one quick thing. And one quick thing I want to say to what you said. He said, why did God bring the Israelites to Canaan? That was a promise God had already made to the Israelites through Abraham, that He's going to send them to a land flowing with milk and honey. And it took them all that journey. They had to go through a whole lot in the wilderness to prepare them for that promise that He has given them. When He brought you out of Cameroon and brought you here, there's a reason why I brought you here. And that's the reason that you need to seek. You brought me from that place because you know what I want to do. And He knows what your plan is today, yesterday and tomorrow. He already knows your future plan. He knows where you're going. But you need to ask God, why am I here? Why did you bring me here? What's the purpose of me being here? And it might be the purpose for Him bringing you here to prepare you for what He has for you in the future.
Amen. Can I just say one quick thing?
Oh, definitely.
Sorry. I think there's 2 things we need to look at here, the physical and the spiritual. One of them, why I'm saying this is because a lot of the times God is speaking to us, but are we listening? And I'm not saying this at you, I'm saying this at all of us. I've been, you know, I would say I've made myself a victim to that. And the reason why is because you hear a lot of sounds, you hear a lot of voices, but what voice are you listening to? Sometimes we say, oh, we're praying to God, we're praying to God, we're praying to God, but we don't sit down and wait for a response. So God is speaking, but you're flying here, going over there, doing everything, watching every other man, but not listening. Recently, I've been, you know, talking to God and trying to understand a lot of things. And then one thing that engaged me is that we have ears and we have eyes. But there's the ears that are the spiritual ears where you hear the voice of God, and then the eyes that God gives you to see beyond the physical. A lot of the times what we're doing is someone will tell us, oh, go and apply for that job. Go and do this. And I'm not saying that the physical things are not needed to be done, because God will demand you to make a physical response and to do something. But what I'm saying is, when you negate the realm of the spiritual, you lead yourself up for more errors. Because if God is speaking, and he's always speaking, not if, he's always speaking, but you're not listening, he can tell you, you're here for a time, it's 2 months, go here. But because the person wasn't listening, they stay in a place longer. And one thing that God is so awesome, he will always provide while you're in that place. Yes, he will. But it means that the person's there for longer than they need to be. The journey of the Israelites, if we look at it, it was, I think, a 13-mile radius, and they were there for so long walking around. And yes, they learned. I'm not saying they didn't learn. But the issue is that at a time we should know and be quick to hear the Spirit of God, to listen carefully, and also to see. There's one thing Pastor Ayo did, he did a sermon about our thoughts. Now, if I think I will not make it, trust me, it's very difficult for you to say to God, God, help me, help me, help me. And then you think something else. And then God is not a magician. He works with what he's given you. So you're thinking something contrary to what God has said, and you're wavering. The Bible says a double-minded person cannot expect to receive of the Lord. If you're thinking something contrary to what you are praying for, it's very hard for that thing to come to pass, because God will use the vision that he's given you to now work on that thing to make it come to pass. So that's why I'm saying there's the physical, yes, you went and you moved, but I'm saying that let us not negate, because we talked a lot about the physical, let us not negate the realm of the spiritual, the realm of knocking on that door as many times as possible until you get a response, but also listening long enough to hear what God is saying. Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much for that. And I know we may have all said, or they may have said some things that you definitely already knew, but even you just asking that question, standing up, saying it, that was definitely a good step to take. It was definitely a good move in itself. But we do have to come to a close now. I do appreciate everybody. I wish we had time for more questions, but we do have to come to a close. Do we have time for one more question? Yeah, okay, we have time for one more question. We have one in the back. Oh, it's a statement?
And I'm not trying to go over what you all have said, but just to re-emphasize, the community we're in, there's a stigma that goes along with things like depression. Because of that, people can put on a facade. So don't do that to yourself, okay? Spiritual, but also physical. 2 approaches. If you're at the point where you need help, please go seek for help. It's okay to seek for help. However, the Bible tells us that we should be transformed by the renewal of our minds. A depressed mind is a mind that needs to be renewed. And the word of God can do that renewal. Amen. When life's blows hit you, trust me, anybody can be depressed. If you had a traumatic accident, if you're failing an exam, you could be depressed. Why is it that one person will fail an exam and they'll go like, whatever, we'll take it again, and one person will feel like jumping into the ocean? Chemical imbalance, it's real. And I'm not a mental health specialist, help me, and I stand to be corrected, but I've seen these things and they're real. I lost my boyfriend and they want to jump in the ocean, really? I'm serious, these things are real. If you take care of these people, you'll be like, is this so serious? But it's real, chemical imbalance. So if you need help, seek help. But you know the best help? This thing is not just ordinary word. Apply it to your spirit and it will lift you up.
Thank you so much for that. All right, everybody. That brings us to a close for the Think Room. But I do definitely want to say that basically the moral is if your life feels like it's falling into pieces, sometimes those pieces are just falling into place. So you may be down, you may be in a place right now where you think things aren't working, but just roll with the punches. Just roll with the punches. God is with you, God is at your corner, and that's the best person to have at your corner. Someone who wants you to put everything on them, to rely on them fully. And the main thing that I would say with this support system, having that relationship, just bringing that back up, it's very important to share, to talk to people, because when you hear that other people may be going through things that are similar to what you're going through, that also helps. You guys can communicate on it, you guys can fight with it. I know people who have been applying for jobs, applying application after application, like I was saying, and not getting a position, that kind of discourages them. But just that next application they may submit may be it. Even when they're trying to go to medical school, law school, these different things, they're just small obstacles that I'm sure you're gonna get over. But thank you again, and everybody have a great Sunday.